Hi, welcome back to Engineer Your Space. I'm Isabel. One of the things I love the most about my new apartment is this kitchen that I now have with lots of cabinets. But it's really generic looking and really white. So today I'm going to show you how I upgraded my rental kitchen with some lighting, a removable paint job, that's right, removable, a temporary backsplash, and some other small changes to give it a custom look on a budget. My kitchen has a lot of things going for it. It has lots of storage space and it's really bright during the day with the skylight. But the lighting at night is absolutely terrible. I can't see what I'm doing when I'm working at the counter. So an easy fix for that was to install Undercabinet lighting. Now you can get light kits for this at Home Depot or online, but I found a really inexpensive LED light kit at IKEA called Dioder, and it couldn't be simpler to install. First, you twist off the light from the base, and then keeping in mind which direction the cord is going to go, you mark the screw holes for the base where you want your lights to be. I used a nail to start the hole to make it easier to put the screws in. Then you twist the pucks back in. Then I screwed in place the transformer, and I used wire tacks to hold the wires in place and the switch. But you really have to be careful that you don't puncture the wires when you're doing this. And I used a saddle clip to secure all the excess wires so that they're out of sight. It's not pretty under the cabinet, but all the wires stay out of sight. And since I don't have an outlet close by, I use a power strip to connect the lights and give me more outlets. I love these lights. It's perfect test lighting. I also wanted to add some lighting above the kitchen sink, but the cabinet there doesn't have a lip to hide the wires and the switch. So I went with a different light kit from IKEA called Non. Having these lights has made such a huge difference. Now I can actually see what I'm doing at the counter, and it gives a much higher end feel to my kitchen. Now another thing that I did to make my kitchen a little bit more functional was to install a tension rod above the sink. And it's become the perfect place to put my dish towel, my dish brush, and my sponges in little containers. I love how it keeps everything off the counter, and I get to add a little bit of color there too. I also created some open shelving above the sink by removing the sliding doors. I love how it gives me easy access to things I have to use every day. Well, on this side of the kitchen, I also wanted to bring in some colors, so I decided to cover up these white tiles here behind the stove with a really easy temporary backsplash. I found this really great fabric online that looks just like tile, and I stapled it to a 1/4 inch piece of plywood that I had cut at the hardware store so that it's about a 1/4 inch narrower and an inch taller than the opening to make it easier to install. Then I removed all the burners and knobs from the gas stove to give me a smooth surface to work with, and I simply slid the fabric covered panel so that it wedges between the fan and the wall. To protect the panel from the open flame from the stove, I covered it with a custom piece of 1/4 inch tempered glass. Now, using gloves, or in my case, oven mitts, will really help to prevent getting fingerprints on the glass. I ordered the piece of glass online for about $100, and I'm sure I'll find another use for it when I move out, like a tabletop or something else. Now, the piece of glass is nicely held in place at the top, but you could also use corner round molding on either side of it to hold it in place. And the last thing I did was paint the back wall with a latex paint in a deep blue called Sailboat. But I didn't paint the actual wall. I covered it first with a white temporary wallpaper to avoid having to repaint it the original color when I move out, which I have to do according to my lease agreement. To do this project, I used 1 roll of self-adhesive wallpaper from CB2, which is removable, paintable, and works on walls with a semi-gloss finish like mine. It feels like contact paper, and once it sticks, it's really not easy to reposition it like regular wallpaper or wall decals. So that's why it's definitely better to have someone helping you when installing this wallpaper. Since I was working alone, it was difficult for me to line up the seams. So as a workaround, I overlapped the strips at the joint. Now it makes the seam a little more visible, but that way I was sure there would be no gap and I wouldn't get any paint on the wall. You can use a squeegee to remove the air bubbles as you're installing the strips, but I found a credit card works well too. I did end up with air bubbles that I missed along the way, so I popped them by making a tiny hole with a pin, resealing the hole by pressing down on the wallpaper. I used a utility knife to trim around the edges, but the wallpaper does tear easily, so I had to patch up in a few places. I did tape all the edges before painting to prevent any paint from getting on the wall. All the imperfections became really less noticeable once I painted the wall. I don't know how easily it's going to come off when I move out. I'll let you know when the time comes. For now, I'm really happy with the way my upgraded kitchen turned out. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And you can always get more DIY tips and information on my website, engineeryourspace.com. See you next time.